My name is Richard Rushing. I am Chief Information Security Officer for Motorola Mobility. It's not if you make a decision, it's that you made the decision. I think that is the key. We get too drawn up in the craft of making a decision and scared to make a wrong or right decision. But that time that's spent on dwelling is the critical time that a decision should have already been made. And typically this is what executives and management are looking for, is that you can make a decision. It may not be the right decision, but it's a decision that's nonetheless. I classify it as we're at the golden age of cybersecurity. As I've been doing this for years, the issue was always convincing people that there was an issue, there was a problem, there's something that had to be addressed. Now, the publications, newspapers, articles are doing this for you. There's not a day or week that doesn't go by where millions of records have been breached and everything else. So the executives and the conversation that used to be a painful conversation, a lot of trouble of trying to convince that there was a problem. Now they already accept that there's a problem. They're looking for you to give the answers. So now you're in a different situation than you were 5 years ago when you're trying to convince them. Now you're trying to convince them that you have the answers and you're going forward in the right direction with that. It's no longer trying to get them onto the same playbook or at least on the same question. They're already asking you the questions and you better have the answers for them. Cybersecurity for my organization's always been changing. Motorola has gone through a lot of divestitures, acquisitions, spin-offs, and everything else. So it's a constant changing environment for about the last 11 years as I've been CISO. The nice thing about that is that kind of prepared to our current environment, which is a constant changing, morphing environment where what was the threat in 2018 is now on the back burner. There's a brand new threat that you have to change to and have to address. And the danger of things went from mundane, not a big deal, to just having an unpatched system could decimate an organization. And we've seen it time and time again with cities being locked up with ransomware or things like that. So we see the results. So now this comes to the place where you really have to respond quickly, you have to be able to think out of the box, and you have to be able to change, and you have to have an organization that's nimble and quick, not something that is structured and static in that nature, because unfortunately you'll just be a road bump on the information superhighway for the next hacker. The threats and the trends you kind of distill in different areas. You have the cybercrime threat, which is people are after money. We see it with business email compromises, you see it with ransomware, you see it with the different disparate sides of it that are actually there. That's one set of groups. You have other groups that are after intellectual property, nation-state actors, even to the point of you have additional criminal elements that are looking to monetize your process on that side of it. So there's a lot of different groups. They're kind of after the same thing. Some of them are after money, some of them are after information, some of them are after intellectual property. And the idea behind it is just finding those balances of where to go, because it flows differently. It could be 1 week you're focused on the cyber criminal aspect because of something. The next week you may be focusing on an intellectual property aspect because of a third party. Another one may be something else that's around there. The issue that really gets into the play is that the old days of having defenses and things that are around there are still there, but they have holes in them. They have things that you've placed in them. You're no longer, your PCs only stay maybe 8 hours inside its nice secure wall that you have of your organization before it's at a coffee shop, a hotel, an airport, or someplace else for the next 16 hours before it's there. So the world has moved fast, and your data has moved both in your environment to outside of your environment, and trying to control all those parts and pieces is relatively a 24/7 job, as well as understanding the risks and the threats that are associated with each one of those. I think it's back to a couple of key components of that, is understanding what's going to move the needle for your risk of there. To say, okay, do I have good inventory? Do I know all my PCs? Do I know all my devices that are connected in my network? Yes or no? And if you don't know about it, doesn't mean that it's just because it's the ostrich approach. Just because I don't know about something doesn't mean that it's not going to kill me or attack me or do something else. So if I don't have a good handle of identification of my assets, I probably should start there first before I go to something way far down of response. I think the other thing that gets into the next thing is it's not if, but when. And you need a plan. If you haven't already outlined some basic or formalized structure for an incident and how you're going to respond to not just one, but a couple, and just look at the newspaper, figure out, take the headlines for cybersecurity, and hey, how do we respond to ransomware? How do we respond to a data breach? How do we respond to a third-party data breach? Have those already defined and put into play. Those are the key elements, because those time that you see tick away, you'll see time and time again how badly that's actually done. And you don't want to be the first time that's there, because that is a career-ending capability of having a poor incident response. Nothing will get you out the door faster than how do you respond to that, because it will take away your trust, it will take away your support in your organization, and you're no longer there. So how do I move beyond that? I think it's that. And then go back and figure out where your risks are. Is it with third parties? Is it with your endpoints? Do you have a lot of people that travel? How do I control access to that? How do I control those functions with that? And then it's back to what I would call optimization. Most of our tools are not optimized. Mainly, when was the last time one of your security people took training on a tool set that was there? They're busy, we're constantly trying to work, but a lot of times versions of the software change. We add new enhancements, new features, new capabilities that a lot of times are not even enabled because we just left it the way it was and continue to operate at that function. So optimize your tools, take them from where they're at like 60%, make them 90%. So your investment could be spent on training and other people's skills much more than, hey, buying something new, why don't I use something that I already have and make it work better? I think training is one of the key elements, and I think from two factors on the training side. You definitely need to allocate budget for training, allocate budget for individual training, and I suggest allocating substantial budget. So give your employees $10,000, $15,000 for training, only to be used for training. Let them decide what training they actually need versus you deciding, saying, here, you need to take this. And sometimes, yes, that's the capable. You're moving to a cloud, you need some training on security and something like that. That may be practical, but leave it up to them, because they're going to take training that's going to help them enhance their job and help them do that. And that's really where you're going to benefit from them, is they're able to do their job faster, more accurately, and with much more capability than they were before. But let them do the training. What that also provides is that it's a significant deterrent for moving. Everyone wants to have training, and you want to offer something to someone that the competition may not be having. And so because every security person is being approached by headhunters or staffing agencies that are trying to hire them away, even around that. So what are you going to be able to do that? And this is a perk that you're not going to find in other places. And having that perk now puts them on a different playing field of like, oh, I don't get my training, which means I don't get to take X, Y, and Z. Oh, well, what about training? Oh, well, we don't have a regulated program. You just sign up for it and maybe you go. well, how many conferences could I attend? Well, it has to be approved, and et cetera with that. You're now generating something that keeps people on your staff and it prolongs their efficiencies on that side of it, that they have something that you're not going to find elsewhere. So it's not, we have bagels on Wednesdays and donuts on Fridays. No, we have $15,000 put into your bucket to go spend on training. And you're not going to find that elsewhere in the marketplace. I think it's from the thought leadership roundtables is really a good avenue that's there because it brings people that are interested in the same subject matter around so that you can have a nice conversation and discussion around that as kind of also an impromptu so that it's not as serious, put us in a room and lock the door kind of thing. It's more of lunch and casual and meeting friends, old acquaintances in some cases, new acquaintances and others that are there.
And what's some of the other networking been like? What's your experience?
The networking is great, both from meeting people from the vendor perspective as well as meeting people that you come from a different area that's around there. That has been a big draw. Even though we're located in the Midwest, we have a big draw from the different areas of that. So you get people from automotive sector, you get people from the different cross sectors, which at the end of the day, you kind of always have some of the same problems, but they may be handled very differently around some of that. So it's both a two-way street that I can share what's worked for us in the past and also get new ideas from the people to go back and say that we can come as well as getting additional contacts and things like that to help out in the future.